Hey guys, welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. So today, before we get started, just get through the admin. Remember to like this video. Remember to turn on notifications so that you get notified every time we have a new video. And of course, always leave us a comment, and I will try as much as possible to respond to the comments that you leave on the channel. So today, we're going to start a new series of videos. We're going to call it the Professional Django Developer because I've got a lot of videos on my channel around Django development focusing on a specific project. But today I want to create a course which is going to be a series of videos where I'm actually going to show you how we do it in a professional environment. I want to create the most complete course on YouTube right now on professional Django development. So if you look at this architecture, we are going to cover every element of professional development. We're going to look at cloud hosting. Of course, we're going to stick to our lovely DigitalOcean. We're going to look at the Django framework. We're going to look at the Postgres SQL and maybe a little bit of API endpoints. I don't know if we'll get to it. We're going to look at working with front-end frameworks and how that combines with the Django framework. This we've done a video on before, and we've covered just maybe this red envelope, which is just the development part of creating an application. But of course, in a professional setting, this is just the beginning, it's the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't end there. You need to have application security. So we're going to look at how we introduce application security, whether it's a web app security, firewalls and things like that, and use platforms like Cloudflare to assist in that sense. We're going to look at CI/CD. CI/CD is continuous integration and delivery, which is expected of professional settings. So it's not enough to know how to write code. It's very important to understand how to deploy that code in a safe way. So I'm going to show you, and we're going to have a couple of videos where we're going to do CI/CD, and we're going to look at testing as well, because testing goes very closely with integration and deployment, because you have to test your code. And we haven't really done that in this channel. We've just shown you how to write functional code, but now we're going to go into actual testing, how to write tests for code, how to write unit tests, how to write integration tests, browser tests, all sort of tests that go in a sort of a professional environment, so that if you come out of this course and you're looking for a Django job and you've created a portfolio, you can have a portfolio that has all of this in it, because this is what we look for when we're hiring Django developers. We're going to look at ISMS stands for information security management. We're going to look at some frameworks that are necessary when you're creating an application, what's required, what's necessary, what's important, why it's not important, or why it's important. So these are things like disaster recovery. Do you need to have a system in place for what if your server crashes, and how are you going to recover, things like that? How must your backups look like? How do you automate all of that stuff? So we're going to go into DevOps. We're going to try and have the most complete, this is what we call full stack development, because it's not enough to just know the front end only. This is full stack development. We're going to go into using Git for version control, using Git for deployment, of course, with Git actions. We're going to look at back-end stuff, catching with Redis and background tasks and Celery and all of that. We've done a little bit of this, but we're going to go into more detail, building this for a production setting, for example. We're going to go into documentation, because we haven't done that before. And developers don't always understand that it's them who have to write the documentation. We're going to show you how to write documentation for the application and how to do it properly, the tools you can use to make your job faster. We're going to go into project management. How do you go into managing a project and managing client expectations, and how to deal with clients? We're going to actually simulate a real client so that I can show you how it is in the real world, in the real development world, how clients come to us and how we sort of work with them, and the client and the project management tools we use to manage clients throughout the project lifecycle. So believe me when I say this is going to be the most complete Django development course on YouTube, and this has never been done before. So remember to subscribe, because we're going to have a lot of videos. We're going to go through everything step by step. If you're a beginner and you haven't written a single Django project, this is good. But I recommend that you have some Python experience, because I'm not going to go into Python basics of 1+1. But if you have some Python basic experience, some experience working with computers, if you watch some of our videos and maybe you're trying to get employed in the Django space, this is the video for you to watch, okay? And we're going to do it all for free on this YouTube channel. Now, to get ready for this, right, I've decided to come up with a hackathon competition, all right? And this hackathon competition, I'm going to try and show you what it's like in the dev space when we're specifically looking for developers, when you want to get hired as a dev, all right? So what I want to talk about now is, these are all the things we're going to cover, and I've already mentioned them as I was going through the architecture diagram. So this is a project that we're going to do in the hackathon. I'm going to give you about a week and a few days to do it, right? And after you've completed doing this project, then we're going to go into building it step by step. So everything that I've explained over here, we're going to cover step by step, and I'm going to show you the solution to the hackathon, all right? And this is how we're going to go through this project. But let's go into the details. This is not a hackathon for experience sake. There will be a winner, and the winner will receive money. I will personally pay the winner 10,000 rands in cash. So this will be payable to the payment method of your choice, but we prefer obviously working with PayPal. So if you're in South Africa, I can pay directly into your bank account. If you're international, you could get a PayPal, and I will pay the equivalent of 10,000 rands into the PayPal account of your choice. This is just for the winner. There's just one winner. One person will receive this prize, okay? And you can share this far and wide. This is a challenge, and I want to just see what skills are out there. I want you to try this project on your own, right? Try and get the tools and build it on your own. And after the hackathon concludes on the 31st of January, then we are going to go into building it together, and we're going to go through all of these things together. For the hackathon, these are the things that this is a project, we're going to go into the project details, right? So the client comes to you and says, I want you to build me an online tender portal. This is all the client has given you, all right? They said, all right, this client portal needs to have authentication. That's a basic requirement for most applications. They would like multi-factor authentication, which means when somebody logs in, there needs to be more than one factor. So one factor can be a password, the other factor can be an email or an SMS or whatever. It's up to you what you're going to choose, but I prefer using emails because that's the easiest to implement with Python code. So that's sufficient. So the application must have multi-factor authentication login. The application must be able to scrap on the internet all available tenders. And I want you to just specifically work with, you can work with, if you're not in South Africa, I don't mind if you want to do tenders for your country, right? I don't really care which websites you're going to scrap the tenders for. But what is required is that you need to scrap the website, you need to get the information about the tenders, and then you need to also get the tender documentation, because a lot of the websites will show the documentation that goes with the tender that needs to be completed as part of the tender. All right, so you need to download that document and include it inside of your database. So it needs to be, so your data structure that you're going to design must include all the tender information plus the document. That's important. If you want, I'll provide in the documentation that I'm going to provide for this tender, for this hackathon, an example link which has both a descriptions and documentation, just for you to get started. All right. The system must be able to send out email notifications to users. So users must be able to receive, they should be able to log in, register, and sign up for email notifications, for example. And there will be payment processing, but this is not required as part of the hackathon. So I'm going to put this in, let me format this in red. right? I don't expect you to implement a payment processing as part of the hackathon, but we will do payment processing in the final application that we will build. So when we get to this building this step-by-step way we're gonna go through this project, I will include payment processing. But as part of the hackathon, you don't need to do it. Then bonus points, right? If you can manage to add an extra feature to the application that allows for automated completion of the tenders, you will get an extra 10,000 rands. We will double your winnings. So if you build the platform and it can scrap tenders, and then it can do normal email notifications, people can log in and do whatever, we will give you 10,000 rands if you win. This is not for everybody that builds it, okay? We will do an internal analysis and we will pick the winner. The winner will get 10,000 rands. If you win and you have also implemented an AI agent, we will double your winnings and then you will get 20,000 rands, okay? Now, what if you've implemented the AI and you're not a winner? Well, it's very unlikely that you would have done that and you're not the winner. It's very likely that if you go that extra mile already, you would, and it's got to be working. So the minimum requirement for the application you build, I don't want you to say these are the features and I've implemented AI so I qualify for the 10K. We are going to judge an application based on that it actually works. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go into the application and it must work. I'm going to judge the features that you've built based on me reviewing the application, not based on any submission. So the only submission you're going to give us is the code. There won't be any write-ups. I don't expect you to write and say, this is what we've done. I just want a GitHub repo that has the code. I will go through the code and I will decide the winner, and I will see in the code what you've implemented, and what you've implemented must work. If it doesn't work, for example, you obviously you're not going to win if your code doesn't work. So these are the requirements of the hackathon. If you want to enter the hackathon, I've created a Google form, all right? I'm going to put this link in the description of the video that you're watching. You need to complete this Google form if you want to participate in the hackathon. The reason why is there are specific things in the Google form, and I will show them to you now. So if you go on the Google form, you will see that it's a simple form. I'm only getting literally your email address and your name, all right? And then terms and conditions of the hackathon. It's very straightforward. So you'll provide me with your email address. You'll provide me with your name, whatever name you want to work with. If it's a team, you can put your team name in there. And then I just need you to accept the terms and conditions of the competition. Just because there's money involved and I don't want there to be disputes in the end, I just want people to understand what the competition entails. The first thing is that you are entering this competition voluntarily, all right? You're entering out of your own, free will. Nobody made you or forced you to enter this competition. The second thing is that you will submit original work. You will not submit work that you have copied from somewhere, some other third-party software application, some other open source code application, or like there won't be any plagiarism. This is just you declaring that the work that you're submitting is code that you have written yourself. Of course, there's nothing wrong with using libraries, and if you use snippets of code from somewhere else, provided the code is licensed to allow you to do that, that's fine, just as long as you submit your own work and you're not plagiarizing the work and you're not submitting somebody else's work. The second thing is that you grant Tati Software access. So Tati Software is our company. You're granting us access to be able to use the code, and you're giving us permission to the code, because we won't be able to judge the competition if we don't have access to the code. So your licensing in that code you provide us the permission to do that. And over and above that, you also provide us a permission at the access to that code, because if that code is great and we select you as a winner, and this is only if we select you as a winner, okay? So if you don't win, the code is yours. We're not going to use it. But if you win the competition, obviously this is part of a bigger project, would like to take that code, maybe improve it, maybe work on it, but the ownership of that code, you will transfer it to software. It will not be your code. Specifically, if you win and if we need to take your code further for further development and we give you the prize money, that will sort of be like the payment that we're giving you to take the code off your hands. All right. So that is part of the requirements for you entering this hackathon competition. We don't guarantee to offer you employment, so let's be very clear about this. All right, yes, we are looking for Django developers, and I'm going to show you just now the job spec. But as part of the hackathon, there is no guarantee of employment. But if we like your code so much and we like your skills so much, maybe it's something we can discuss, but it is going to be on a one-on-one discussion, and it's going to depend between the two of us. There is no guarantee of employment. The payment terms is that you will provide us with a working PayPal account. That's what we have on the terms, but we can waive this if you're in South Africa and you can give us a working bank account that we can just transfer in the, we will transfer to you cash. And if you work with a team, you're more than welcome to work with a team. You don't have to work on the code yourself. So you can have a team of 2, 3. It's up to you. But if you win the money, it's also up to you how you distribute it between your team. Okay, we're not going to get involved with he said, she said, who said what. All right, we will, whoever submits the competition, you'll see that we will have a different form for submission. We will request access to the GitHub. The person that submits will submit also the payment information if they win, and that is what we will use, and we will not get into any discussion about who owns what and who wrote what and blah blah blah. And you must agree to the terms, or you might not agree with the terms. If you don't agree with the terms, of course, we won't take this further. And once you're done with submitting this online form, because make sure the email address you submit is correct, because I will then email you more information, more details about the hackathon. Of course, I've given you the high level information about the project so you can decide if this is something you can do, and also be mindful of the time frame because it is due on the 31st midnight, the last minute of the 31st of January. So by the 1st of February, the competition has been closed. You will have to submit a GitHub repo as part of this. So you can have your own GitHub repo. You can make it private if you want, or you can make it public. It's up to you. But if it's private, you will need to grant us access to the repo, and all that information will be in that document that I will send everybody at that has entered the competition. So if you enter the competition, I send you that document. I will only start sending it tomorrow. So if you submit the form today, just expect a response sometime tomorrow morning. And if you only submit it later in the week, then whenever I receive it, I'll send the response to you. But that response will have information about the GitHub repo. But you can get started right away. You don't have to wait for that information, all right? For you to get started, you only need a virtual server. And I will put in the link of the description of this video that we're watching right now. I'll put in there a link to DigitalOcean that allows you to create a free virtual server. I think it gives you a couple of $100 in free credits, and that will be more than enough for you to build this. All right, I think you have to enter a credit card, but it doesn't get billed until you've exhausted those $200 worth of credits, which is more than sufficient for building this project, because you can just build it for a month and then shut down your GitHub, your account. So this doesn't have to cost you anything, right? But if you have your own server, you can use any server that you like. I'm not concerned what server you use. The only thing that I need is that you will give us the repo to the code. Well, of course, I will test it, which means if it has an environment file, which I will show you, or you would know how to do if you know how to build this already. If it has an environment file, the document that I will send to you after completing this will include instructions of how you need to share at least the basics, even if it's an empty environment file. If there's elements in the environment files that must be there, how to share it in a secure way, we'll discuss that. I'll put that in the document, but maybe I'll use my own database or whatever. And also your code needs to have instructions for deployment. So if that code needs to be deployed, for example, I expect you to have some high-level instructions of saying, these are the deployment instructions, and this is where the environment file goes, for example, and this one must be in the environment file, and blah blah blah. That must all be in the GitHub repo. Okay. So let's go into what I expect, the minimum expectations of this project, right? The minimum expectations is that you will, obviously you will set up the environment, you have to do that to code, but when we do the YouTube video, we'll cover all these points. This needs to be a Django application, so you cannot choose any other framework. You cannot use Flask, you cannot use React, or you cannot use some other third-party authentication that you like. The requirements of the hackathon is that you must use Django, and you must use all the Django frameworks for everything that you're going to do. You must use Postgres SQL database, you must use Redis for background tasks, you must use a virtual server in Linux, and the deployment must be a deployment when you're using Git Actions. We need to be able to deploy to a virtual server, for example, where if I use my own server, there should just be instructions of how to do that. Developer documentation is what I mean by developer documentation. I don't expect, I know I have it in green here, but give me the minimum documentation I need to understand your code. Because if you write the code and you don't provide enough documentation for me to understand, I could mark you down on something just because I don't know it's there. So for example, deployment documentation. Provide enough documentation for me to understand how to deploy your code. If you don't provide deployment documentation and I can't figure out how to deploy the code, and then you don't get the marks because I end up thinking your code doesn't work, that is at your own risk, right? So I don't expect you to have 100-page professional documentation, although when we go through this at a later stage, I will show you how to do proper documentation. But for now, provide me enough documentation for me to be able to understand your code and deploy it and know that it works and test it for the purposes of me judging the competition. Number 2, your document must have tests. I expect your code to have tests. This is required. The coverage of the test, you can use your own discretion, but I expect tests to be there, so I should be able to run tests on your code and the code passes those tests. Later on, of course, I will analyze the test you've written and understand whether or not, like you get points plus or minus depending on how well you've written your tests and so forth, all right? Automated deployment is not a requirement, but of course, if it's going to be helpful, especially the automated testing and the automated deployment with GitHub Actions, if you put that inside of a GitHub repo and you test it, it will make it easier for me to just do it as well, right? But it's not, this won't disqualify you if you haven't done it, all right? What I need is just working code, and you just document for me how I can go and deploy it. That's all I need. The rest, when we go through the professional Django, when we go through the full detailed course, I will go through all of these points. So these are all the points I will go through. We will cover backups, how to do regular backups of your system, your entire architecture. So this is not just going to be code backups, it's going to be static assets, it's going to be logs, backing up the logs. It's going to be also disaster recovery. Do we need to audit your system? This all goes into the ISMS part of your architecture and building an application. And part of professional development is that you need to have systems in place to ensure that you can do all of this, and if they're automated, it's even better, and that you test and you get your reports on a regular daily basis. We will cover how to do this in this course, all right? We will cover basic requirements of, I'm not going to go into being like fully fledged certified GDPS, POPI Act, or ISMS, but I'm going to show you what's important and what you need to do, and specifically what corporate clients look for, because sometimes if you want to get a job as a Django developer, you're going to have to understand these things, right? So I'll just show you, I'll explain them to you, even though maybe your system is not like certified, what is it, GDPR, this is the GDPR or whatever. I'll show you what are those things. For example, how to handle client information, what you must provide for in your system, the ability for the client to see the information, the ability for the client to be able to delete review, edit, those kind of things that are in these kind of policies, right? We will cover those things and we'll just show you how to implement them. Even though I'm not going to get the system to be certified, I'll show you what is important. So all of this will be part of the professional Django developer course. So I hope you're excited, and let me know in the comments below if you're excited. Feel free to share this video with everybody, because the sooner people watch this video, the sooner they can get ready. You can get started right away. So take a screenshot of this right now, because this is all you need to get started. I will put the link in the description for you to get started with a virtual server. If you don't already have one, you can work with your server to start your development process. The application needs to be a tender, a portal client application. I will give you an example of a website tender that you can scrap. So let me just put that in here. Let me say example website so that I remember to do this. When I upload this video, I'll just give you one example website of what you can scrap. But other than that, you can use any website that has all the requirements of at least tender details and a document you can download. All right. Make sure you just have a Django application that organizes the information in a searchable format. People can search for tenders on the platform. People can then register for email notifications and so forth. Forget the payment processing and bonus points if people can use the platform to autofill their tender information. All right, so that's it, guys. I'm excited about this. So next week we will catch up on the progress, because next week the hackathon will still be going on. I'll be available for questions if you've got questions. Before you can ask me any questions, complete this form that will be in the description. I will have your email address. Then you will get my email address when I email you. Don't use this email here. You will not get a response. This is just the Gmail that I use. Okay. You will get an email from me. That email, I think it will be hackathon@dati.digital. Then you can respond to me with any questions with the hackathon. All right, so I hope you're excited about this, and let's make some money and let's get started with this Django developer course.